Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.
Jap.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Round 6, the season finale of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic race. We're going to be down at the Charlotte Roval, an absolutely unique motorsporting event. The last time we're going to bring these Mazda MX-5s out, and we're going to have a quick look just before we head into the standings. We're going to have a quick look at the previous round. Round 5, the podium is Afizul Azhar in first position for Android King SSAD, followed by Jezrin Jali for Autohouse FCR and Teguh Ezan Lay for Uncle Racing team. All three drivers definitely punching well above their weight in the previous round. But meanwhile, in the points standing, Ahmad Razam is in the lead. There's still 4 drivers who could technically, theoretically win the championship at this point. But Ahmad Razam has a healthy lead, followed by Saiful Arifin, Kalvinder Singh, Wicket Low. And just behind those guys is Jezrin Jali, Teguh Ezan, Ilham Halabi, Dominic Ang, Shami Aizan, and Amir Farid-Yan. And in the team's championship, Autohouse FCR Performance have a absolutely commanding lead, followed by Android King SSAD, who still have a theoretical chance of winning the championship alongside Uncle Racing Team and SSAD Go Racing. But it looks like it is Autohouse's championship to lose. Following those top 4 is Padawan SRC Speed Tavern, Rab Pro Drag, SRE Racing Team A, Toda Motorsports, Padawan SRC B, G29 SRE Racing Team B, Hermanos Veloces, FR Garage Team, 778 Autosports, and YLab Motorsports. And now we come to the prizes. P1 is the driver's champion, personalized trophy, 100 ringgit Works Engineering voucher, and the Pandora's Box by Android King, a fantastic little arcade system for the winner of the Drivers' Championship. In P2, you'll get a personalized trophy, a 50 ringgit Works Engineering voucher, and an iRacing credit by an anonymous SRE member. Very mysterious indeed. P3 Driver Championship is a personalized trophy and iRacing credit by the same anonymous SRE member. And P1 in the Team Championship is the team name trophy and the 150 ringgit Works Engineering voucher. So some tasty prizes lined up for those guys there. So now we're going to head over to the track. My name is Matthew Palmer. I am your commentator for this evening, alongside Chan Wei Han, who's also just joined us in the virtual studio.
Wonderful! We've come to the season finale, and what a track for us to go to end the season off. I don't think we've selected a better track for this.
Oh yeah, this is going to be such a dramatic way to end the season. It's an absolutely fantastic track. Part road course, part oval, all excitement all the way through. You have to be very quick through the fast sections and really get your slipstream game on, and also you have to be very accurate through the fast and flowing middle section there. It's going to be an absolutely entertaining race. We've never really had a boring one. It's 22 degrees C right now out there. It's going to be perfect conditions for quick lap times.
Similar to previous weeks, we have, or rather, a little bit not similar to previous weeks. We do have 30 odd drivers who've come into a session. We are halfway into practice, which means that some of the drivers might still be on their way into the session. So of course, entries are still open until the end of qualifying, which we still have more than half an hour before we come to that point. Now, with this new Charlotte circuit, in comparison to the older circuit, which where the walls are yellow, of course over here it is a little bit bumpier, which makes for the driving experience to be a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, and another absolutely spectacular feature of this circuit is the curbs that you see Ilham Labi there bounce over using the MX-5s there. Those big sausage curbs there could really wreak havoc on the car if you take them in the wrong way, but you really do have to attack the curbs quite aggressively if you want to get a really quick lap time. As we see here, Ilham Halabi, who unfortunately had to miss the previous round, he's back for the finale in the Toyota Motorsports car, a team that's definitely improving by quite a lot.
You can just see how narrow this place is, the fact that there are walls not only around this oval section but also in the infield. It just makes for drivers that the drivers will have to be more cautious as they take the different corners. With this car, it's not as difficult as you might compare to perhaps the NASCAR Cup cars, where there's a lot of emphasis on braking. There's still a lot of emphasis on braking as he comes across the bus stop here. The thing with the track limits is that on this Roval, the track limits are not exactly strictly enforced, so you are able to kind of take the quickest line through some of the apexes.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. This entire racetrack was really designed so that the drivers can really push hard. It's designed to be spectacular, and like I said earlier on in the broadcast, we never really have a boring race around here. It's always very entertaining, lots of position changes and quite a few incidents, as well as we watch Nigel Chua, another driver who's improving quite a bit. I mean, in my opinion, this infield section is absolutely unique because it really is a contrast between the oval section and the infield section here, and rather uniquely, it has quite a bit of a gradient. There's a little bit of elevation change to really keep you on your toes around here. What do you think is the most challenging part around this track?
Well, my only experience with this track was actually with the NASCAR. One of the most challenging was actually the chicane right before the start-finish line, which is not this bus stop one, but the one that will come right after this. the thing is, you do with that car, and I suppose with this car as well, you do have to brake into the corner, and the fact that as you can see, Nigel, who will make his way towards the chicane in just a moment, you can see that the entry to this chicane is actually a left kink, so you're effectively braking not in a straight line but in a slight bit of a curve. Of course, with these cars, it's just a little bit easier to kind of manage less weight. This being a smaller and lighter car, it's just going to not only will it make for the cars to find their way around here a bit easier, it's also going to bring quite a lot of close racing, added with the fact that the corners here, they're also very closely packed together. It's just going to a little bit of mistake. I guess that's something that might happen if you do overcook your tires here.
Yeah, it's quite often you see, because that infield section looks a lot simpler to drive on a track map than it is in real life, because like I say, there's elevation changes, the width of the track and the barriers tend to be closing in on you on all sides, and also those big sausage curves mean that unless you're absolutely on it, it's very easy to get the car unsettled, and you can very easily find yourself pointing in the wrong direction. To watch Amir Faridyan, another one of the quick drivers, following the championship leader, Ahmad Norazam. Now, I must say, Outer House FCR has had a stellar year, a stellar season rather, so far in the championship. And I guess it just goes to show they've been quite good with their team tactics. They try to get the cars in sort of sequential order. They're always nose to tail at the end, always maximizing the points haul, and that's not only helped the team towards the lead in the championship, but also the driver up ahead, Ahmad Norazam. Just to explain to the audience at home, it's 30 points for a win. So definitely Ahmad Norazam is about 20 points clear of the opposition, but there's still a chance, so he has to be very careful. I would be wondering whether he'd be taking it safe and easy, or if he's going to try and win the final round and claim the championship in style.
So do in fact see the usual suspects up in the order in terms of lap times. So Saiful Arifin has a 1:33.944, and like a lot of tracks, I guess there's this kind of invisible border between a whole second. So just three drivers, Saiful, Ilham, and Amir. These three drivers have managed to break the 1:34 barrier, and the lap times are within 1:33.9. But of course, if we have a look at the rest of the drivers, their lap times are all mostly within 4 seconds of one another. So it is still quite a compact field with paces that are very similar with one another.
Yeah, and I would suspect that gap is going to close down even further in qualifying. A lot of these guys out there right now aren't just trying to go out to set a fast lap time. A lot of them will be looking up the all-important fuel consumption. As we've seen in previous rounds, it can become a factor. These cars don't tend to run for 45 minutes, for 45-minute races, so a lot of these guys will be looking to that and try and make sure they know what lap they can run to before they'll need to think about heading into the pits for a quick splash and dash to get back out. I wonder how much of a fuel burn this track is. There's a lot of stop-start, there's a lot of acceleration. So you see Kelvinder Singh there looping it around, just about avoided by the Outer House guys. But that banking transition is going to be very difficult to manage if you're in a side-by-side situation, isn't it?
Also with cars like these that have less power than usual, it's all about trying to plot, so to speak, to kind of plot the best line, the line of least resistance from the infield and into the banking. So it could either be that you curve yourself up towards the wall and then diving back down to use the gradient to kind of regain some of that speed, or you just kind of remain low throughout, which might be what the drivers would do along the bus stop. Now, of course, with the track, it does also give some, I find that especially with the infield, it does give some kind of street circuit vibes, with the walls so close together. But you add that with all these elevation changes, both hills such as this where you go into the infield, the slight crest and stuff like that. With banking, not just the oval section, even in the infield there are also corners that are banked. It just adds for more opportunities for your car to become unsettled, and that becomes another huge factor once you go racing side by side with other people.
Yeah, we had a wonderful chance to speak to Nizam during the free practice one session. During that broadcast, it's a very interesting session we had in Bahasa about driving tactics, and it does seem that this track is definitely geared towards a lot of guys pressuring each other into a mistake, because you have to be very accurate and you have to be very consistent in order to get good race pace around here. And oftentimes you'll see guys coming up behind and not necessarily going for the overtaking maneuver, but more trying to get the car in front to make a mistake in order to make that overtaking maneuver a lot easier. And there's been some fairly interesting tactics that were deployed during the practice race that we had on Friday, and it'll be interesting to see the overtaking maneuvers work through here. So what do you reckon is the best sort of overtaking spots again?
Well, I think the overtaking spots might come. This would probably be one of them, because with just looking at the track map, you kind of see two distinct slipstream zones. Of course, both are around the oval section. So those usually towards the end of those slipstream sections would be where drivers might think of plotting themselves for overtaking moves. But I would also imagine that along the infield, especially along perhaps the one straight road that is the straight section that is kind of just parallel to the backstretch, I think that's where some overtaking moves could take place.
Yeah, and it depends as well with the championship situation the way it is. We could see some fairly aggressive overtaking maneuvers needing to be made by the championship contenders. In case Norazam falters, there's going to be quite a few drivers biting at the heels in order to try and get that overtaking maneuver to stick. So we have, first of all, that quick comment there down below. Welcome to the AIMC Season 1 finale. Please vote for the Sportsmanship Award for this round in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you can also chat with us. Do leave a comment down below. We'll try and read them out during the broadcast and try and interact with you guys. And while you're down there, do hit that like button and share it with your friends. We'll be very much appreciated. Meanwhile, we watched Tunku Ezanle, who managed to get himself into a podium position at last. We've been talking about him being slightly unlucky over the course of this season. Could be fair to say he's had the pace to be in the podium positions for quite a long time now, but he finally managed to get that monkey off his back in round 5, and it looks like he'll be trying to do his best to get back up into the top of the leaderboard at this race as well, in the Tedco racing car.
Got good shots of the banking from here, with the updated graphics that come with some of the newer iRacing tracks. You do see kind of some good textures that come out of the tarmac. Those are some kind of those are things that you might not necessarily see with some of the older tracks on the iRacing service. Yeah, we can hear a little bit of the braking tire scrubbing as they make their way around here, and just look at how close they go to the walls. They go against the walls, and a little bit of mistake, which has led to a big mistake by the driver from Uncle Racing Team, and yeah, it's just totaled his front end. But of course, this is practice, and it's all drivers can simply reset their cars back to the pits, and they'll have a new car.
Yeah, and it's amazing to think how much laser scanning has improved since the first laser scanned tracks hit the iRacing service. Ooh, as we see a lot of drivers there getting a little bit muddled up into that first corner. We've always seen that first corner as a bit of a danger zone when it comes to first lap incidents, but it looks like these guys are struggling a little bit to try and find the fastest, quickest way around that corner. And perhaps that might be to do with him coming off the banking and into an uphill section. Let's watch Jezrin Jali there doing the opposite, going from the straight section onto the uphill bank, and just about avoiding a spinning car. Luckily manages to get himself off the racetrack in time. Jezrin Jali, another driver from the Outer House FCR garage, bit of an unsung hero. He's always trying to get the car into the top 10. Occasionally he has to make the best of a bad situation, like in the previous round where he had a bit of an incident. But I guess it just goes to show that not only are these guys really doing the best they can to try and get up the field, but they're also working as a team as well. Another team that's been improving quite a lot, as pointed out by Aslan Manap down in the comment section down below. Good luck, Padawan SRC. That's another team that's been improving. Both Team A and Team B have been improving by quite a lot. Eddie Adrian, that's another driver we have to look out for. A rookie to the series and to the world of sim racing. He's been doing very well indeed. He started out, as you'd say, quite slow, but he's definitely improved just as we got on board. I think I may have spoken too soon there.
Oh.
Commentator's curse. It's
Yeah.
it's a thing, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have a look at Faiz Aslan instead. But I was just going to say, Eddie Adrian has impressed us quite a bit with his performance. He's definitely learned quite quickly, and he's got some very quick teammates to rely on for information when it comes to that regard. But Faiz Aslan as well, another driver doing quite well for himself in the Pad 1 team. Another.
You spoke too soon again.
I'll let you take this one.
This is Muhammad Khalif, and he comes across the start-finish line. He's not. Has he set a faster lap time? Nope. Unfortunately not. He's going to go on the entry into turn 1, and I think he cleans that off nicely. He's going to go on this left-hander. Makes good use of that banking, and is well into the infield.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go, man.
Yeah. So it just goes to show that it's always me that manages to get the commentator's curse out. Twice in a row. I'll be going for the hat trick next time.
All right.
But Khalif is now, he's been doing quite well himself. He's been improving quite a bit. Speed Tavern as a team have been fairly competitive. For those of you not in the know, they're a sort of an organizer in their own right, organizing little races in Assetto Corsa Competizione, I believe, ACC, and other Kuno simulation sort of racing sims. And it's great to have them on board for our series. They've been absolutely fantastic, with Khalif and a few of the other drivers really putting on a show for us in the commentary booth. It'll be a sad day to see them go, but hopefully we'll be able to convince them somehow to stay. But in any case, Saiful Arifin has gone quicker, a 1:33.944. That's only slightly quicker. Yes, good luck to the Speed Tavern boys. We've got the well-wishers coming in right now. We've only got 10 minutes left in the practice session, and I can just about see...
We're just about to see how many cars will spin into turn 1.
Yes. Well, we're just about to see the front runners coming up through there. Saiful Arifin, of course, in first position. Ilham Plabi in second. Amir Faridyan. These really are the guys with the one-lap pace. And ladies and gentlemen, you will note I was not talking about Dominic at that time. Kelvinder's also going quite quickly as well, alongside Freddie Ang and Jezrin Jelly. So it'll be quite hard to tell who's going to be in that pole position. I'm guessing one of the front three drivers, Saiful, Ilham or Farid. But it looks to be a very close challenge for the quickest lap time in qualifying. About 10 minutes time with those three drivers up there.
So they're just making their way around the oval section and into this tricky, this where we have to brake not in a straight line, but brake towards the left kick before the chicane. So Roval Wong will come across the start-finish line, but he does not improve on his lap time, and he's going to brake along the entry into turn 1. Now, this corner is a little bit deceiving because you have that first corner and then you have this one. So, what makes this so difficult is that there are walls along the inside, which does make the corner kind of hidden, and it's going to be a bit difficult for drivers to kind of see the apex coming. So drivers will have to be more cautious as they take the first two corners.
Yeah, we just got another comment to Adley Berry. Hi guys. Hi Adley. do keep those comments coming. There's a bit of an end of term feel to this whole season finale. It's going to be absolutely spectacular as we watch Ruben Wong get back up onto the banking through NASCAR 1 and 2. Getting slightly discombobulated in my old age. But yeah, coming down into the backstretch here, you can see how dramatic the banking on the oval is compared to the straightaways, which are a lot flatter. But it does still give you a lot of a real challenge to try and get the cars braked and turned in when you're coming onto and back off the bank. As we saw with the first corner there, you've got to be really careful because there's that moment partway through the turn-in phase of the corner where the car is almost light before it comes crashing down onto the apron again. So that's going to be really interesting to watch as we see Michael deciding to go on another flying lap in a rather entertaining manner. And but yeah, it's going to be very challenging because this track is going to be quite tricky to drive on. There's virtually no margin for error. As you see, Amir Faradian, you can see the pace that he can carry through the infield section there. He virtually bullies Michael out of the way onto that backstretch there. And like you were saying earlier, the track limits are definitely there to be abused. NASCAR tends to be a little bit more as Amir Farid goes off the road again. But yeah, they do tend to be a little bit more tolerant of that. They're a little bit more about the show down there in North Carolina. And yeah, I think it's gonna really turn into a very, very decent race indeed. Freddie Ang there just about clipped the wall. There's a lot of drivers there, I think, pushing quite hard indeed to try and get a good lap time in the final practice session of the season.
This is Rashid, who is also on a hot lap of his own. So of course his lap time was, or rather is, a 1:35.915, and we shall see if he's able to perhaps best his lap time and maybe jump a few positions up the order. So we can see he takes quite a fast entry into the final chicane, but you know, if you take too fast of an entry into a corner, a chicane like that, you might miss out on a good exit. So that might have hurt his pace a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like Rydell has not been able to improve on his position. Michael Hafiz now has just gone on an outlap. We've got Faiz on an outlap, Norazam, Freddie, and Amir Faridian, who had that little mistake. He's gone back into the pits and immediately out again. We've got another 4.5 to 5 minutes left in the practice session. I think everyone is starting to go out there and do their qualifying sims to try and run a simulated qualifying lap to try and get their eye in for the real qualifying session, because there's not a lot of time. And with a track like this, as we've seen in the past, the lap traffic can be a bit of a concern, and back markers as well, when it comes to trying to do a hot lap during qualifying. We have an open qualifying session up ahead, and it's going to be really nip and tuck as to who can get the quickest lap time in the best possible traffic conditions.
So this is where the slipstream comes into play. This is the first of two major slipstream areas. So Shamir Aizan would be sitting behind that car. But of course, you know, even though this is an overtaking spot, you have to be able to plot your move well ahead of time in order to make your overtaking work through into the corner. And very much immediately after this is the second zone that follows, the second slipstream zone. And again, you know, Shamir Aizan is closing the gap once again. He's going to try to go along the inside, but you know, with the whole braking not in a straight line thing, it does get difficult as well. So I think you might see some drivers perhaps thinking of overtaking moves in the middle of the infield section, deep in the infield section, as opposed to on the oval section.
As you could see, Shamir Aizan coming through into the infield section over that crest, which is, from the driver's point of view, a lot more blind than you think. You can't really see very far ahead of you going through that section. The wall's very close and the crest is quite steep. You're coming up into that braking zone there. That's another overtaking spot that Sham Aizan can use, but it looks like Calvin Ha up ahead is a little bit quicker. Seems to be practicing a little bit of dogfighting, but it looks like Sham Aizan just had a bit of contact there with Calvin Ha. Best to get your incident points out of the way during the practice session, I suppose. Like a lot of the other drivers right now. Michael Hafiz, who some of you guys may know was my co-commentator during the Invitational series. He's having a nice little back-to-school moment driving that little MX-5 car. He's learned quite a bit. Most of you who probably know him from the MSF Touring Car series, MCS, you'd know that he's a bit of a front-wheel drive and K-car specialist, so moving to not only a new discipline in sim racing, but moving to a rear-wheel drive MX-5 car has definitely challenged him quite a bit, but he's done quite well. He did quite well in Laguna Seca a couple of rounds back, and in the previous round he did fairly well for himself. So it's another case of a driver slowly improving as he goes up through and gains more experience rather through racing in the AIMC, and he's being tailed right now by his teammate Ilham Labi. They've just got Amir Faradian in between them, and perhaps Amir Farad getting a little bit desperate. He would have wanted that extra lap. All of the championship contenders will be trying to do as many laps as they can in practice session just to make sure that they're absolutely perfect. So as the practice session winds down, we're going to hear a few words from our sponsors. Do stay tuned. Qualifying is up next.
Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.
So, all right. So, welcome for all of you guys who've just joined us. We are at Charlotte Roval for round 6 of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship, the final round. We're deep into the qualifying session. I am your host, Matthew Palmer, with Chan Wei Han, and we see Saiful Arifin there, who's just set another fastest time. This is going to be absolutely nail-biting to see if Farid or Jezrin can do any better.
So Saiful Arifin has bested his fastest lap time here at Charlotte Roval with a 133.9 flat. So that is in fact quite a fast lap time, and the next driver behind him would be Amir Farid. But we have a look at Kelvinder. He had quite a fast practice lap time. His current lap time here is 135.197. But is he going to come around the chicane and set a faster lap time to push himself up the order by perhaps a few positions? He does so with a 134.654, which pushes him up to 7th. Of course, we have just passed the halfway mark, the halfway point of qualifying, and we will begin to see some of the drivers perhaps pushing for even more competitive lap times as the moments draw to a close.
It looks like Nazmi Mazli as well is on a flyer. He's done a personal best in these previous few sectors, and he might improve his time. No, he does not. He's dropped it in the final sector. Michael Hafiz, another man on the move right now. He's just about to finish his lap time, but he fails to improve. And as we see there, the new graphics we have at the bottom there, the order closest to the finish line on the left, furthest away on the right. And we have that little color coding system. Yellow is bad, green is a personal best, and purple is best overall, or FTD. But we still have Saiful Arifin with a 133.9. He's done and in the pits as we come up to the 10th minute of qualifying. Amir Faridyan and Jaswid Jali are still trying their hardest. Amir Faridyan is now out there trying to get a quick lap time, whilst Jaswid Jali has just come out on his outlap. But meanwhile, we look at Shamir Aizan in the RAB Pro Drag esports team. They've been having a fairly up and down season, but they're definitely on the upswing right now. They're looking to spring a surprise as they're coming into the qualifying session. They're hoping to end the season on a high. And as we can watch here, the SSAD car, I believe that's Adi Raimi. He's done a faster lap time, but he still stays in 23rd position. Now it looks like a lot of the guys now are being caught up in traffic. This is going to be a real worry for Farid and Jasrin in order to try and challenge for the pole position.
Now the way this track is along the infield especially, you do notice that although it's a tight track with walls that are so close to you, there are some areas where there are strips of tarmac, extending beyond the track limits, and usually drivers would use them in order to kind of leaving the track boundaries but not exactly going off track, and they do use those areas to optimize their racing lines and lap times. Of course, the curbs here are, they're just as high and as bumpy as ever. Not something that these MX-5 cars might be used to. So, it's just these are just various considerations that drivers have in mind.
So now we watch Rezan coming into the final chicane. We'll see if he can improve on his own lap time. It looks like he's unable to do so, but he'll try again for the next lap. He's obviously just gone for a additional warm-up lap. But meanwhile, we have an incident, it looks like, further down the field there. That's car 90. That was Adi, who's unfortunately had to pit and go again. We're coming up to 3 minutes to go in the session, so basically really only 2 laps, if that. A lot of the guys who are coming out now really have to push hard in order to try and get on to the start-finish straight and complete a lap in time. As we watch a couple of the other drivers coming in, that's 24, I believe that's Ruben Wong coming in. Will he be able to improve his lap time? Unfortunately, it looks like he is not able to do so. He's just about 0.4 of a second off his previous best time, and it looks to me that a lot of the drivers, perhaps some of them trying to work with other cars in the field, but it's just not working out here. The slipstream effect is quite strong on the backstretch and through the final two corners, NASCAR 3 and 4, but fortunately when there's too much traffic up ahead, you can't really get a very clean run through. Ilham Halabi, one of our quickest drivers, he, if anybody can try and challenge that for F1, should be this man.
So makes good use of, I would suppose, the additional tarmac along the apron to cut short his entry into this oval section, the banking. Of course, he has to keep his line compact through the middle of that corner in order to get the best line through this corner. He goes on the brakes at around the number two braking meter board, which is probably the optimal point for them to brake. They go very close to the wall indeed, and making good use, digging all the way into the apron. It's remaining on the apron, so it is interesting to see whether or not he will retain this line or if he's going into the pits.
And it looks like he's bailed. Perhaps he feels he can't do any better, or if he might just want to come in and maybe try some fresher rubber, or even just a fresher mindset, wipe the sweat off the hands, so to speak. Now we're riding along on board with Wicket Low. He'll be trying his hardest to nail this infield section. He's got a few positions further up ahead that he can try and claim. He's now the first of the drivers in the 135s who want to break into the 134 session. We have a comment down below there. Collaborate with Speed Tavern for ACC, perhaps one day. You never know your luck in the big city, as they say. But right now, we watch Wicket going around the turns 1 or NASCAR 1 and 2 on the banked ovals. A little bit weird naming convention. I should have to explain on these ovals. The entry onto a banked turn is considered one corner, and the exit is considered another corner, or another turn rather. So if you ever wondered why this is called turn 3 and 4, even though it definitely is one single continuous corner, that's because of that weird tradition. But right now we'll watch Wicket coming into the braking zone. He's going to be very careful. The checker flag is out, so this will be the last chance for Wicket to get any sort of pace. Has he managed to improve his lap time? He has, but it's not enough to push him up the leaderboard. He stays in 12th position.
This is Ilham. He'll come across the final chicane. Will he be able to best his lap time? Currently in 4th. He bails once again, and he's not going to be able to make any jumps ahead of his current lap time. This is Nigel Chua. He's probably going for one last hurrah. This is checker flag now, so drivers are not allowed out to the track until gridding. That'll happen in about 2 minutes time. Braking quite hard for the bus stop chicane, and I think a little bit of a misshift as he tries to carry his pace over. And this is him along the banked stretch. It's going a little bit high up and back down again. This could be one of the tactics that drivers use to kind of shake the most, to try to get the most out of the car, but he bails as well into the pits.
It looks like the misshift has lost him enough time that he didn't feel it was necessary to try and finish that lap. And so as a lot of the other drivers, it looks like only Wicket is out on the track. I believe we can now finally call the final qualifying session of the season. As we wait for the results to pop up on the screen, it looks like it's going to be a very hectic race. We're going to have to watch out really for the first corner and the chicanes. I believe we're going to have some real hard and heavy action coming into that section.
Final seconds of the qualifying session. After that, we'll move to gridding. Then the green flag. It is 45 minutes of racing as usual, as with previous rounds. And of course, this is all about stretching the drivers to their limits as they push these cars well beyond the usual time frame that drivers are used to driving this car.
And there we have the grid. It is official. Saiful Arifin will be our final pole sitter of this season with a fantastic 1 minute 33.9 Android King SSVD. We're very happy with that performance. Amir Farid Yan, another championship contender for Outer House FCR, is in second position. Jasrin Jali is in third position, really staying close to the front of the field there. Ilham Halabi is in fourth, followed by Eddie Adrian. Ahmad Razam, our championship leader, well down the order in sixth place, but he's very good in race pace. Kelvinder Singh, perhaps ruining the mistakes he had in qualifying session. For SRE Racing Team A, he is seventh. Dominic Ang is eighth, followed by Freddie Ang. Both the Uncle Racing Team drivers really hoping to cap their season off on the high. Nigel Chua is in 10th position, followed by Faiz Aslan and Wicket Low. Tafik Tahir in 13th place, followed by Ruben Wong, Tramizi Yusuf, Mohammad Khalif, Shami Aizan, Farizal Akmal, Michael Hafiz, Adam Azni, Nasmi Masli, Rashid Raidel, Colin Chia, and Muhammad Mohaimin, our top 24 drivers. And now we're just waiting for Shami Aizan to grid up. Everybody else is on the grid. We'll be waiting for the lights to go any moment now. Saiful Arifin there. The nerves are building. The drivers are nervously looking around, checking last minute the controls in front of them. And the lights go up. The 5 red lights will illuminate. And it's go, go, go from all of the drivers. Saiful Arifin has managed to get a clean getaway. Farid is right alongside him, however. But Saiful Arifin manages to close off the gap. Everybody seems to be getting through the first corner relatively unscathed. Just a couple of stragglers. Mohammad Khalif really lost out quite a bit through there. And Rashid Raidel going wide. Another one of our losers, but it looks like Saiful Arifin, Farid, Amir Farid Yan, Jasrin Jali, and Ilham Halabi have managed to get through in one piece. Ilham definitely improving his starts quite dramatically, but a lot of the action is happening further down the order. But Saiful Arifin is in the lead, and it looks like he's far enough ahead to now focus on getting his head down and try to push as hard as he can. Ilham Halabi, however, has to watch out for Eddie Adrian, our real standout rookie of the year, right behind him. Meanwhile, Mohaimin there just with a little incident. Really unfortunate for Mohaimin there. Looks like he just got the car a little bit sideways and got tagged out by the car behind.
So back with live pictures with Saiful Arifin. He leads the field into the final chicane for the first time this race, and everyone's following closely. Farid is going so close to the rear bumper of Saiful, and this is probably one of his intimidation tactics as he tries to find his way around. The drivers are still very closely packed with one another, and at a tight circuit like this, it's just going to be more interesting to see how everyone will be able to handle the heat that is kind of placed on them. Because over here there is just less room for error compared to most other places.
Yes, that is going to be the case. It's almost like the heat gets trapped in when you're in a situation like that, with the walls looming and with you barely being able to see further up ahead. But it looks like Ilham Halabi has dropped a lot of places. He's dropped 6 places in that second lap. And it remains to be seen what happened there. He must have dropped back quite a bit due to perhaps a driving mistake or some other incident. But yeah, the intimidation tactics seem to work quite a lot through the Charlotte Motor Speedway, not only on the high banked oval, but in the Roval section as well, the combination road Roval course really seems to sort of reward the more aggressive driver. Jesut Jali there in third position. He's dropped back a fair way, but it looks like Amir Faradian is still within touching distance of Saifa Orifin and perhaps thinking of mounting a counterattack.
Counterattack indeed. These are two teammates from Alco Racing team, and that is Dominic Ang, who has gone around, and Freddie Ang, leapfrogging the other Ang, and he's found himself in 8th place, whilst Dominic has dropped all the way down to 17th. So I'm not exactly sure how the team atmosphere would be like in the moments following. But we've also seen Wicked, who's made the move ahead, who's up to 7th. A little bit of action there. That is Ahmad Norazam, who is ahead of Wicked. And, we just have to have a look at how the drivers face it up. Now, would appear that Ahmad Norazam might have made a little bit of mistake, which have led him to kind of return the position.
Yes, and he'll be feeling a little bit nervous. He has that 20-point lead, but in 6th place, it's starting to look a little bit nervous for him, because there is a possibility that he might lose the championship if he gets caught up in too many midfield incidents. He's now trying to go have a look around the outside, but Eddie Adrian defends rather neatly into the corner there, but Eddie has to make sure that he carries enough speed to try and get a good exit out of the chicane in order to make that defense work. And it looks like he has. Ahmad Norazam really has to start overtaking cars in order to give himself a nice breather. He really has to think about the championship consequences right now, because I definitely wouldn't really want to be in that position if I was leading a championship. But it looks like Ahmad Norazam will have his head down and push hard as he can to try and pressure the rookie into a mistake. It looks like he's going for a overtaking maneuver, but unfortunately his line was just a little bit too tight in order to make that overtaking maneuver stick.
So we scrub around as we try to identify various battles that are taking place. A lot of position changes as compared to probably earlier rounds. With this track, it does make overtaking so much more exciting. This is Kelvin Singh, who's made the move ahead of Eddie Adrian, the Android King car. I just remember that car as the one with a WhatsApp number on the bonnet. Brilliant advertising. I think every team should do that. Kelvin Singh is up to 4th, and Jayasrin Jali would be next on his hit list.
Yeah, Kelvinder has definitely started to pick up the pace. He was a little bit further back in the field, but now he's into the top 4 positions. Wicket is also climbing up the field. Freddie Ang has managed to overtake Ahmad Norazam. Could be that the pressure might be starting to get to him. Meanwhile, Ilham Hlabi, we're going to review that incident. Ooh, that looks to be a very, very scary accident for Ilham Hlabi. Meanwhile, we have a look at Saifa Orifin, and I must say, coming 3 wide on a banked oval, even though it looks quite easy in the NASCAR TV footage, but when he gets into a situation like that, it can be very scary. You can find yourself facing the wrong way directly into the wall very easily indeed.
Yeah, I think with the way these corners are, it just does kind of unsettle. It just makes it easy for you to unsettle the car a little more. Freddie Young behind Wicked, and you can just see how even with this additional excess of tarmac, you can still make use of a little bit of the grass as you try to make the best out of that section. So it comes upon the exit of this infield section. Right now it's all about trying to select the line of least resistance, kind of like a big curvature of sorts, as he re-enters this banked section and goes back for a top speed run.
Yeah, and for Freddie, it's going to be absolutely critical that he tries and latch on to the slipstream of Wicket. The slipstream here are really effective on the banked ovals. You don't really feel it so much in the midfield, but it looks like Freddie has misjudged his braking point, so he has to probably give that time back. He'll have to back off a little bit. There is a penalty system in place for incidents such as that. But Freddie Young just misplaced his braking just a little bit too late, and he ended up in the bus stop chicane as opposed to around it. Tegu Ezanle, meanwhile, is in 13th position. It looks like he has not had a terribly good qualifying session, but he has improved massively. He's in 13th place, and he's improved 13 places from his starting position. So that's a lot of overtaking being done by Mr. 10.
Tengku Isan, of course, he sits in 13th at the moment, but of course we have a good view of a possible four-way battle pack led by Shamir Aisan that you can see in the far front. He leads three other cars, the cars of Norisam Aslan and Yusuf. So perhaps Tengku might think of joining this battle train with the next corners to come, but we do see some of the drivers already thinking of different moves to make. A row of cones to the left, if you go a bit too shallow into a corner, you might sweep all the cones off the road. But they now re-enter the banked corner, and I think they're just gonna begin to space themselves out. Now notice that with these MX-5 cars, sometimes they do make use of a little bit of their apron to get the best line, to get the best speed around. Ahmad Norazam probably decided not to go for the overtake ahead of Shamir Aizan.
Yes, it really is a case of momentum driving par excellence for a lot of these guys, because you really have to push as hard as you can to try and maintain the speed on the MX-5 cars, because they do take quite a while to get up to the top speed. They don't have an awful lot of horsepower. They definitely don't have an excess of horsepower to try and use, so the driving style has to definitely adapt a little bit. It's not definitely quite a bit different from what a lot of the top guys in our series normally drive, like a GT3 car or a GT4 Porsche or something like that. They really do have to make sure they scrub the minimum amount of speed possible, so that's where we see them diving into the banking, using as much of the apron as possible and trying to keep the car as neat and tidy as they can to try and keep the average speed as high as they can manage. Now we watch Tengku Ezan there on the back of this train of cars. It's looking like they're definitely close enough for the slipstream to take effect as soon as you get onto the bank. Perhaps Tengku Ezan is slightly too far behind for that, but Shamir Aizan, Ahmad Norazam, along with Faiz and Tamizi, they are going to be in a situation where they've got to really watch each other and try and use that situational awareness to their advantage in order to try and make that overtaking maneuver work.
So they snake their way through this bus stop, and you can see that it is their outside wall that kind of might prevent them from carrying enough momentum through to this section. I think it's just there to kind of prevent drivers from taking advantage of the excess tarmac. So Tamizi is quite a distance behind Faiz Aslan. The gap is at 0.7 of a second. They go braking, and in fact not braking in a straight line, as they come upon the final chicane and across the start-finish line. They go now around the first corner as well. Can see that they missed the apex by a slight bit, but with the second corner, this is a longer left-hander as well. You can see the pit exit over there, and they come along the third corner.
So yeah, occasionally you will see these guys give just a little bit of space between themselves and the curb just to try and keep that racing line as open as possible. A lot of the driving styles you see here, and it's interesting in the MX-5 cars to see the different driving styles, because a lot of the drivers will try and make that apex at all costs, but some of the other drivers, like the drivers we saw there coming to the first corner, they'll leave a little bit of space on the inside because they want to get that exit just right, especially as that corner immediately leads into a faster corner, a faster, longer corner further around, so they want to get the car settled and ready to turn in as soon as possible. So very interesting to watch the different driving styles as we watch Adi Raimi show off his driving style coming into the braking zone here, into the bus stop chicane. Very neat and tidy. You will see him be very, very close to that wall. Adi is one of those drivers who's who can be very, very accurate indeed as he's chasing down Michael Hafiz. We'll see if he can make that overtaking maneuver stick into the final chicane. Past the pit entry, you can see the puffs of smoke up the field there. Adi really braking hard, but Michael managing to hold on to that position. Now let's watch as Michael and Adi come into the first corner, diving in, and we see Michael gives that space, Adi doesn't. Adi goes for the apex, and you can see the very, very different driving styles that these guys have sort of picked for themselves, the different driving lines. But as you can see, their pace is very close to each other, even though they're taking vastly different driving lines. So it's a very interesting battle as Adi is trying to pile on the pressure on Michael Hafiz.
Yeah, rather different indeed. I guess the resultant outcome is that both drivers have they do have similar pace, but just the one would appear to take more. Or rather, Adi would use more of the track than Mitchell Hafiz would. So he's scrubbed the wall a little bit there, probably going along with his driving style. But of course, with these cars, you can get away with rubbing the wall, as long as it's not too hard. They go breaking into the bus stop, and that is Tami's use of along the inside, because he's still able to hold off Michael Hafiz. But now it is Hafiz and Rashid who nearly went on the track race, but Rashid has he's fallen back behind again, and it's going to be him along the slipstream. Is he going to perhaps think of a move upon this point? Of course, they come upon the final chicane, and this is where Rashid makes a mistake. He overshoots the apex, and he has to then return his position to Mitchell Hafiz.
It was one of those situations where he managed to outbrake everyone, including himself. Tough luck for Adi, but I'm sure he'll be able to get back onto the back of Michael Hafiz as soon as possible. Faiz Aslan now in a battle with Shami Aizan. Further up the road there, Shami Aizan, part of that dominant Outer House FCR team. A little bit further back than he would prefer to be. Aman Norazam is a little bit further back than he would prefer to be. He's in 10th position. They've really got to make sure that they get Aman Norazam as far up the field as he can. Unfortunately, Norazam has a 5.5 second deficit to Freddie Ang up ahead, who's in a battle with Nigel Chua. But Shami Aizan now trying his best to hunt down Aman Norazam and put him further placed down. Aman Norazam has lost 3 positions there, and it looks like Shami Aizan is going to add one more overtaking maneuver to his 7th place gain from the start. Freddie Ang right now very, very close to Eddie Adrian and Nigel Chua. That was the battle ahead of Aman Norazam, and it looks like this could get very, very feisty indeed going into the infield section.
So, of course, plenty of opportunities for drivers to, they can push their cars, or they can decide to take a conservative line. Both driving styles will serve the drivers well, as long as you're able to remain on top of your car. That's the most important when you're driving on Charlotte Roval. So Freddie Young does begin to draw closer towards Eddie Adrian as he comes upon the next few corners. He's taken a little bit of a more compact line compared to Adrian, but they now come upon the exit of the infield section onto the oval section. These drivers will just float upwards close to the wall before coming back down, making use of the banking to kind of gain on the speed. And in this case, in Freddie's case, he's decided to use some of the apron to perhaps cut short the distance to cover.
And it looks like Eddie Adrian is also battling with the car ahead. Nigel Chua, who's proven to be very, very quick indeed. So close to winning on several occasions. But it looks like Eddie Adrian has managed to make a bit of a mistake coming out of the bus stop chicane. And that has given Freddie Ang a possibility of trying to make an overtaking maneuver work. He's very close to the back of Eddie, but he decides not to try. Adrian will be driving with one eye focused on the car ahead and one eye warily looking at the mirror behind, driving with a level of experience that belies his weeks on the simulator that he's had so far. Freddie Ang definitely pushing very hard indeed. So this is definitely a case of a experienced real-life racing driver. The Uncle Racing team, made up of veterans from the Sepang and international racing scene, all the Malaysian drivers that we've seen in GT3 racing and Chirica racing all throughout Asia. And Eddie Adrian, just like you and me, a fan of the sport who's decided to take the plunge into sim racing. You could not find two more different characters, but behind the wheel they seem to be very, very equally matched indeed.
What's so amazing about sim racing is that it can become a good equalizer for drivers of different backgrounds, for people of different backgrounds, with the same common passions for motorsports to be rubbing shoulders with one another. Zainul Hazim goes for the move ahead of Ilham Halabi. It is not exactly the place where we are used to seeing Ilham. He will usually be on the pointy end of the field, but of course I think he's probably been faced with some issues earlier in this race that has led to him to be at this point. He now sits behind Zainul Hazim in 20th, but he might be able to regain that. It gets a little bit of slipstream when it comes around along the banking, and he is kind of side by side with Zainul Hazim as they come upon the braking section.
So there we go, another car down for Ilham Halabi. He'll be pushing as hard as he can to try and make that make as many positions as he can to try and climb up the field. Azim as well, a teammate of his, usually Toyota Motorsports firmly in the midfield. These guys will try and push hard in order to gain some more places up the order. Azim, I just happened to notice Zainul Hazim hasn't quite updated his entry list details, so hopefully he'll manage that just before season 2 of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship. Season 2 will be quite exciting indeed. We'll have a brand new car and a whole new set of tracks to battle out, so do stay tuned to Adrenaline Impact for more information on that series. The season 2 car will be a Kia Optima. It is an IMSA car, I believe in the Pilot Sport Challenge, as it's known in the States. Very close to a TCR specification car. But meanwhile, we still have this series and this championship to fight for. And Saiful Arifin looks like he's taken a commanding position up at the front of the field, but Amanur Azam is still really in a precarious situation. Down there in 9th, he'll really have to work quite hard in order to try and make sure he is in a position where he's safe in the championship. Right now he's in a little bit of a dangerous situation.
Yeah, I think Saiful and Farid are still, they've actually got quite a bit of a gap with each other. Saiful has got a 5-second advantage ahead, but he's now kind of found himself in the midst of lap traffic. So it is another kind of challenge that he has to face. He has to work his way through traffic. But of course, with every lap traffic car that you kind of make your way across, it is an additional layer of protection for you as you try to defend your position.
Yes, as we've seen previously in the championship, you can definitely use lap traffic to your advantage. If you can get through the traffic better than your opponent, you can literally add obstacles, almost Mario Kart style, between yourself and the opposition. So being very good with lap traffic is one of the key skills in these longer races. Our races being run over 45 minutes and with a pit stop potentially being required as well. It really does bring a whole new dynamic to the racing that we normally see on iRacing. Usually it's a 10 or 15 lap race, and these MX-5 cars are really pushing these little baby sports cars to their limit. But so far, Eddie Adrian, he's dropped behind Freddie Ang, but not too far behind that he's out of touch. You can still see him further up the road there, but Freddie Ang is definitely hot on the tail of Nigel Chua. And Nigel Chua is an interesting type of driver. You often see him at the early stages of the race further down the order, but he's slowly and quietly climbing back up the field, doing his best Daniel Ricciardo impression of making up positions when no one's looking. And yeah, he's been in a position so often where he's at the pointy end of the field, and all sorts of things have happened to him in the past. So hopefully he'll be able to try and make it all stick and make it work throughout the race, throughout the full length of the race. But one thing's for sure, Freddie Ang and Eddie Adrian will not make it easy for him.
The gearbox camera of Nigel Chua, rear-facing camera rather, because the camera pack that I use is a little bit different. I'm using a stock camera pack, so I don't see the helmet. This is Nigel Chua. He sits in 6th, and Freddie Young sits in 7th. Also got Eddie Adrian, who is in fact turning on the taps on Freddie Young. So we are seeing one driver putting pressure on another and another. So it is going to be interesting to see if they do close up with one another. I'm just kind of intrigued by how the drivers they're able to just use the apron throughout the middle of the corner to cover less ground and go back onto banking again. With these light cars, you don't actually need much banking to go full throttle through the corner. So sometimes you can get away with scraping the apron a little bit.
Yeah, and this is something that a lot of the quick drivers don't just come across by chance. They do a lot of practice. There's private practicing just with themselves around an empty track to try and figure out these racing lines. Then they practice with their teams as well through hosted sessions that they would have run for the benefit of the team members, and into our free practice 1 session, and of course the practice that we saw earlier on in broadcast today. So they have plenty of opportunities to try and push hard for that. But it looks like Nigel Chua he's picked up some damage and he's really gone off the road. There is something not quite right with that car or with his sim setup. That car is definitely not driving right, and it looks like it will be the end of the road for Nigel Chua. Another person seemingly riddled with bad luck so far. And it's very unfortunate for him.
This is Faiz. He might have a shot at Tengku Izanle for 9th position, but he does back off. He does go early on the brakes. And this is going to be quite a good battle that will shape up. I think what's really amazing about this race, at least today in general, is that there are battles that are happening throughout the field, not exactly just concentrated up on the pointy end. So Faiz is regaining honor. Tengku Izanle, is he going to be able to go for a move along the outside or inside, or will he back off? He does decide to back off once again. So that does kind of prove that these areas are not exactly the best overtaking spots for you to make overtaking moves safely. Coming across the start-finish line, we just passed the halfway mark. We're going to the 2/3 point, going through turns 1 and 2. We've got another car in front. That could be lap traffic in front. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage their way across. Nearly coming to contact. That good use. I think with these cars, when they're so close together, sometimes you can see the camera peering through the inside the bumper. So it makes its way across the lap traffic, nearly coming to contact. They're a bit dangerous. That does unsettle Faiz a little bit, but he's come back and he's now on his way out of the infield once again.
So Amir Farid Yan has in fact dropped right off the screen. In the previous few laps, Saifur Rifin was in 1st and Amir Farid Yan 2nd, with Kalvinder Singh in 3rd and Jasmine 4th. But now the complexion of the race up at the top of the leaderboard has changed. Saiful still leads, but it's Kalvinder, followed by Jazrin and Wicket Low. We'll have a quick look at the replay. So it looks like he's just plain disappeared from view, which is going to be really rather interesting to see what happened to Amir Faridyan. Well, it seems to be was absolutely puzzling because Amir Farid was in a contention to do well in the championship. It'll be very disappointing if he had to pull out of the race. But there he is ahead of Kelvinder Singh. We're watching a replay right now, and as you can see, Amir Farid was defending quite hard indeed. Kelvinder Singh right behind him, looking very feisty indeed to go for the overtaking maneuver. And it's absolutely puzzling. We're still trying to work out where Amir Farid went in the ensuing incident.
So just follow him for some moments. Yes, it was a disconnect that Farid had faced, an internet, as our race director does indicate, it was an unfortunate disconnect. You know, with sim racing, the internet issues like these can, in fact, break your race when you least expect it to, and it was the case for Farid. And you know, that's just kind of thrown his hard work all night long away, just like that. And we're back with Faiz Aslan. He still sits behind Tengku Izanle. He's probably not done putting the taps on him yet. He's not done with his, intimidating Tengku Izanle. Look, we're on an oval track, and we all know of some NASCAR drivers in the past who have some of the best intimidation tactics, and sometimes it's just enough to try to force an overtake.
I can see Tengku Izan, Mr. 10 himself, really pushing that little Mazda as hard as it will go. Perhaps Faiz is just trying to get Tengku Izan to try and use up his tires as much as possible, but you can see Izan is really pushing that Mazda as hard as it can through the infield section, but it looks like Faiz Aslan may have the slight advantage through the back portion or on the oval section. See there, Faiz getting so close to the wall he actually touches it. Another driver going for that ultra high risk, accurate sort of driving style. Perhaps not the wisest thing, but there you have it. Ilham Hlabi is now gone up to 15th position. He's really trying to climb back up the leaderboard. As it stands, he's 11 places down on where he started, and he's really trying to push hard in order to get some positions back. He finally gets past Zahra Hazim, and now begins to try and reel in Aman Norazam, who's 10.5 seconds ahead. So Ilham Hlabi has an empty piece of track up ahead. Let's see if he has enough time to go for the car up ahead. But Freddie Ang is in the pits. Are we about to see the beginning of the pit lane window opening up? Ooh, it looks like Freddie Ang backed up a little bit there. We will have to explain that if you do back up in the pits, if you actually select reverse gear and actively reverse in the pit lane, you are disqualified, which would be really rather annoying if that was the case. Perhaps you just roll backwards off the brakes. That occasionally happens, but we'll see a lot of the guys further down the order have stopped. Freddie Ang has stopped, Dominic Ang as well has stopped, Aman Norazam, Ilham Hlabi, Tarmizi has stopped along with Adi, Farizal, Nazmi, Taufik, Azam, Azli, Ha, Raidel and Azril, but the top runners are still on their same fuel load that they had at the start of the race, so it's going to be very interesting to see if anybody has to pit near the end. We're really coming into the last 15 minutes of the race. It's going to be very, very tricky to balance fuel loads for some of the drivers that have been pushing very hard indeed, but Malvinderjit Singh is only 0.2 of a second behind Michael, and it looks to be shaping up to be a very exciting battle indeed.
Malvinderjit is in 10th, and this is a battle for 9th. So just now it was Michael Hafiz who was putting pressure on Faiz Aslan. Now it's probably going to Malvinderjit's turn to try some of the intimidation. We do have 15 minutes left to the end of the race, and I think it's just going to incentivize these drivers to kind of push the cars to the limit at a place like this. As you just said, that Michael Hafiz goes into the pits whilst Malvinderjit decides to stay out for now, and his pit might come in a moment's time.
Yes, and it does look to me like if there is anybody out there who might try and gamble and take a risk on doing the race with no stops, this will be the place to do it. The first round of pit stops for the fast guys came fairly late, the 33rd minute out of 45. If there could be a possibility of some of the drivers further down the order trying to save fuel all throughout the race in order to try and get that position at the end, because obviously it'll be an advantage if you can finish the race with no stops, but of course it's sort of countenanced by the fact that you'd have to drive a lot slower. As we see Ahmad Norazam, he's already made his stop. He's chasing down Dominic, and will we see a fight back from the championship leader at the moment?
Norazam leading Freddie Ang, and it could be any moment now that Ang would think of an overtaking move. So it goes very close. Oh, sorry, it was the other way around, in fact. So it is Ahmad Norazam who is over in 10th, Dominic Ang in 9th. So both drivers have already pitted, so they should decide to stay out for the rest of the race. They come upon the final chicane, hard on the brakes, and of course this does mean that Norazam does brake earlier than usual. But will he think of going for an overtaking move along the inside of Dominic Ang? He does that nicely. Will he be able to seal that off along the exit? He does that nicely as well. They will go into turn 2 with his newly found position of P8.
And now we see one of the back markers up ahead. This could be a chance for Norazam to try and put a car between himself and Dominic Ang. It could be very, very tricky indeed. It looks like Dominic Ang has quite a bit of pace in that car, so Ahmad Norazam would really want to try and put a back marker between himself and Dominic. Of course, like we were alluding to earlier on in the broadcast, definitely pays to be able to get through traffic better than your opponent, but it looks like Khalif decides to do the wise option of getting out of the way of the battle, and it looks to be like Dominic Ang might be able to take that position back from Norazam coming into the braking zone here. He decides not to, he backs out of it, but it looks to be that it's not quite over yet for Dominic Ang, as we see Khalif there just bump the wall. Ilham Halabi is now up into 13th position. He's already made his stop. Will he be able to gain any more positions? He's got Hazim in front of him, and he'll try and make that overtaking maneuver as clean as possible on his teammate. Obviously, you don't want to take your teammate out. You can see no matter what form of motorsports you're in, it can be a very controversial thing indeed when you have an incident involving teammates. But he'll try his hardest to get back into the top 10, and it'll be an absolutely amazing run for both these drivers, both for Faiz and for Ilham, who will drag themselves up from the back of the field into the top 10. Definitely another worthy fight back from the man who virtually makes his name out of starting from the back and fighting back up to the front.
Oh, it's just that it's gone a little bit wide around that corner, so that might have been a little bit catastrophic for him. But we are back with Adi Rashid, who is in 14th, and he's behind Tamizi Yusuf in 13th. Another Android King car, it's just something about the paint scheme that I enjoy a lot. So he is trying to, we did observe Rashid's his racing line to be a little more aggressive than some of the other drivers that we've seen, opting to use more of the track width, which does come with its advantages as well. You're able to use more ground to get the best out of your car. But of course, you have to use that to your advantage, and Rashid does that very well. And we're back with the new race leader, Kelvin Singh. He's just come off the pits. He's come out, in fact, of Saiful Arifin. So this was him timing his pit stop extremely well, playing his cards right, and he's been able to take the race lead away from Saiful Arifin. But is he going to be able to hold on to this long enough? in order to carry this throughout to the checkered flag.
That is an absolutely fantastic pit lane strategy from Kelvinder Singh. The overcut, if you will. Saiful Arifin tried to perform the undercut on Kelvinder Singh, but Kelvinder really pulled out all the stops to get quick lap times in when Saiful was in the pits. He's managed to exit now ahead, 1.2 seconds ahead, so not the biggest of leads, but definitely a very healthy one indeed. And it looks like he might have Azul Nazli a back marker up ahead, so if he's smart enough about this, he should be able to use the back markers to his advantage. We are coming up to very soon the 6 minutes to the end of the race, so he doesn't have an awful lot of time to try and defend first place, but that is absolutely inspired from Kelvinder, and this might have been the race-winning move there from the veteran sim racer.
Some fantastic driving as we're back with Malvinderjit Singh, and he is kind of being sandwiched by Dominic, but of course there was a message by Malvinderjit to ask Dominic to pass him on the right as he's gone into the pits. He's among the last drivers to have made the pit stops, so after him I think there will only be a handful of other drivers who will be waiting to take it into the pits. Ahmad Norisam is 6th. The same position where he began from. He is ahead of Dominic Ang, who is ahead of Freddie Ang, and rather at this point it would be up to Dominic to try to retake 7th position from Ahmad Norisam.
So yes, by our race director's calculation, Ahmad Norisam is currently in a position to take the championship. He was past 8th position, which is the break-even point right now, but Saiful Arifin has dropped from 1st to 2nd. Kelvinder has taken that position up in the lead, and now Ahmad Norisam, all he has to do is finish better than 8th in order to be the driver's champion. This is going to be an absolute comeback for him because he managed to play the pit stops well, but he's also definitely picked up the pace to try and make sure that he is in the right place. It looks like Dominic Ang a little bit slow coming out of that corner there compared to Ahmad Norisam, but Norisam will definitely want to try and hold on to try and get himself as far away from that 8th place as possible. So we're all on tenterhooks to see if he can manage to pull this off. But Jezun Jali, it looks like, had a slight off-track section there. It looks like he may have just gone on the grass, in fact. But there we have it. By our calculations, Ahmad Norisam is back in the lead and in the driving seat of the championship.
This is brilliant as Jayashree is back where he began from in 3rd. And he is a second, or rather 1.7 seconds behind Saiful Arifin. Of course, this is probably going to go down the line, as they do have 3+ minutes in order for Saiful Arifin to try to retake the race lead. So I think we all want to see how well Kelvinder Singh is able to hold on to his newly found race lead, and we might decide to stick with them for some moments and more.
Yes, and it's definitely a case. We can see there, Kelvinder and Saiful, the difference in speed through the different sections is somehow even more dramatic. Kelvinder and Saiful couldn't have any more of a different driving style if they tried. But you can see that Kelvinder was very quick coming out of the bus stop section, but you'll see Saiful Arifin do sort of catch up to him coming into the infield section. This is the section where Saiful Arifin is really, really quick, and that's where he managed to make up most of his time in qualifying to try and get that pole position. A sensational run to the pole there from Saiful Arifin. But you can see he's slowly but surely catching up to Kelvinder Singh. Kelvinder probably driving with a little bit of circumspect an eye behind him. Perhaps he's not pushing as hard as he can through this section here, but he gets onto that banking so quickly and so smoothly. You can see that Kelvinder is definitely nailing the entrance onto the banking and making up enough time there to try and get a buffer and a margin of safety to Saiful Arifin. It's now 43 out of 45 minutes, 2 minutes to go, perhaps one lap or maybe 2 laps left in the race. So it's looking to be a very explosive end to the final round of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship Season 1. It looks like it's going to go down to the wire up ahead, and it looks like it's going to go down to the wire for Ahmad Norazam, who's dropped down behind Dominic into 7th position. Luckily for Norazam, Freddie Ang is quite far behind, in 11 seconds behind, but he really doesn't want to stay too long there. He wants to get as many cars between himself and that 8th place. But he's still battling with Dominic Ang, and I must wonder what is happening with the Autohaus FCR management. We must be very nervous indeed. They're in a position to potentially take home both championships at the moment. Ahmad Norazam getting really sideways coming out of the final corner. He wouldn't want to do that too often. Could he be jeopardizing his chances by battling this hard with Dominic in the final lap of the race?
Couple of tight battles happening at different points, but the tightest one so far is this one, where it is a battle for the race. The Kelvinder indicating the blue flag there as he comes upon some left traffic. Is this going to throw a spanner into the works of things? Is this going to allow Saiful Arifin to go for an overtaking move? We do see Kelvinder going a little bit hard over the curbs. Saiful does not follow suit, but we now see them coming upon this bank corner towards the final corner and to the start-finish line, Max.
So yeah, it's going to be very close indeed. Will this be the final lap? It looks like this is going to be the final lap. So there is the checker flag right up ahead. Will Saiful Arifin try to do anything dramatic? They're very close to each other, and it looks like Kelvinder Singh has managed to take the final round of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship Season 1 from Saiful Arifin. Jasmine Jali was very close behind in 3rd position, and Wicket Low definitely in a very good place for the SSAD Go Racing team in 4th. As he crosses the line there, we'll be looking with interest. That's Eddie Adrian there, who's just gone past Shopian. He's gone into 5th position. Freddie Ang is 17 seconds behind. Ahmad Norazam is in 7th. He has to stay with 7th, but his car is smoking. There's been an incident for the race leader, for the championship leader. He's gone into the pits. This is absolutely dramatic stuff. He's now in 8th. Adi Rahimi might overtake him. He's in 9th, 10th. This is absolutely dramatic stuff for Ahmad Norazam. The checker flag was right there. He crosses the checker flag in the pit lane in 10th position. That is absolutely dramatic news for the championship. I'm going to have to look at the points, but it looks like right at the very end of the race, Ahmad Norazam had an accident, and that has potentially robbed him of the championship.
And what was otherwise such a spectacular end to the season finale here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Bank of America Roval, the Roval circuit used in NASCAR Bank of America 400. And I think with the MX-5s, it does add a different aspect to this special flavor of racing. And the drivers have, they've survived this track, and they've put on such a great show for all of us. This is Ilham Halabi. We're used to seeing him on the pointy end of the grid, but he will come home in position 22nd as it comes across the final chicane and onto the start-finish line.
He was a little bit higher, but unfortunately, I believe he tried to run the car as low fueled as possible. He had to go in a couple of times into the pits to try and repair the car after a few incidents, but it looks like he didn't take out. He tried to take on as little fuel as possible during the pit stops, and unfortunately, yet again, it's just worked out a little bit short for Ilham Halabi, which is unfortunate down there in 21st position. But Ahmad Norazam there, we say by our calculations, we've yet to tally it up officially, but so yes, whilst we check the championship points, we just wait for the provisional results to come up on screen. Kalvinder Singh there taking a lap of honour. He has worked so hard for this win. He's been so close before, and now he's got it. He must be absolutely thrilled, not only for himself but for his own team, KSF Gaming. He's a bit of a lone ranger in that squad. Absolutely fantastic stuff indeed. And it looks like Saiful Arifin as well. He's cruising. I'm not sure if he's cruising to check the points results or if to see if he is champion. But this is absolutely stunning stuff indeed. We're still waiting for the results to come up on screen.
The results? I think you might have to wait for the session to come to a close before the league results might be updated. So it would be some time. Yes.
So there we have it. Kalvinder Singh has won the race by only 0.2 seconds. Another close finish with Saiful Arifin in second, a bridesmaid once more for Android King SSAD. Jaisri Jali is in third position for Outer House FCR, followed by Wicked Low, Eddie Asian, Freddie An, Tinku Ezan Le, Adi Rahimi Rashid, Tamiz Yusuf, and Malvinder Jit Singh, with Michael Hafiz, Sami Aizan, Nazmi Mazli, Tawfiq Tahir, Zainul Hazim, Azam Azni, Faiz Aslan, and Ahmad Norazam is down in 18th. So he must have taken a penalty for coming into the pits on the final lap there. He's down in 18th position. So this has really changed the complexion of the championship. Asli Dali is in 19th, followed by Rashid Raidel, Ilham Hlabi. Unfortunately, running out of fuel there. He's down in 21st position for Todak Motorsports. Dominic Ang did not fare that much better for URTs, usually much further up the leaderboard. There's absolute chaos so far. Farizal Akmal is the 23rd, followed by Calvin Ha, Nigel Chua, Azra Nazri, Sopian Said, and Ruben Wong down in 28th for the Uncle Racing team. And our final few drivers there: Muhammad Shukran, Jasri Junos, Muhammad Muhaimin, Muhammad Khalif, Amir Farid Yan, all the way down in 33rd. He had to retire, unfortunately, due to that disconnection. He was looking very strong in the race indeed, but unfortunately he is out. Eka Shabin is also out, and Colin Chia. So that is Saiful Arifin is our provisional champion, followed by Kelvinder Singh, and who's in third place? So the battle for the race win ended up being the battle for the championship. That is absolutely spectacular stuff indeed. Saiful Arifin is your new Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia champion driver, followed by Kelvinder Singh, who managed to win the race in the end. That is absolutely amazing stuff indeed. By 1 point, Kelvinder Singh did everything he could in order to try and overtake Saiful Arifin, but Saiful was just that much closer behind. And there you have it, as everyone does the traditional crashing into each other at the end of the race to one. And there we have it. Ahmad Norazam finished third. He was in a position to win the championship until that final lap. That is absolutely incredible. Alrighty, so what do you say about that, Wei Hun?
Well, look, I think it was a race finish that I think we would never have expected such a result, of Kelvinder making the move for the race win, of Amanor Sam, going into the pits because he probably lost fuel, and also, various drivers who have lost, who kind of came upon the final lap without enough fuel. I think these are things that usually only drivers would be aware of before anyone else of us do. But I think otherwise, we've seen the effects of how a circuit like this does have in producing perhaps a different style of racing. One that allows drivers to push their cars quite more than usual, but one that also encourages close racing, and also with walls around the place. It does make for such a style of racing that has the us race viewers that are kind of viewer centric. In the style of racing, you've always got more action that you see here than usual.
This has absolutely been a fantastic series from start to finish. And I have to say, if this is what it's like at the inaugural season of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship, I cannot wait for season 2 to begin. So do stay tuned to Adrenaline Impact for more information on season 2. I believe the entries close on the 30th of July. Alrighty, so 30th of July is when the entries close for that. So if any of you guys out there want to take the plunge into sim racing, or into this championship in particular, do look for a couple of friends to form a team and join us. It'll be multi-driver teams, and a new car, front-wheel drive, 375 horsepower Kia. It's going to be very exciting, a TCR style car, and as we see some of that is absolutely horrifying when that happens. But all that remains for me to say is to congratulate the Outer House FCR guys for the team's championship, and congratulations to our drivers champion in waiting, or champion-elect. Obviously, we'll wait for the official results to come through. Do stay tuned to Adrenaline Impact. But it looks like Saiful Arifin has managed to gain that championship position. Absolutely amazing stuff. Kelvinder Singh in second in the championship. He's won this final race and made it absolutely spectacular. All that remains for me to say is to thank our director, Khairul Alang, and our commentator, Chan Wei Han, and myself, Max Palmer, and our sponsors, Works Engineering, Lucas Oil, Oregon Engineering, Stream.my, Simology, Pico Media, Sim Racing Enthusiasts, Tonak Motorsports, and Interformula. A very special thanks to them for supporting us throughout the championship. And we will see you guys in the next one. But for now, I'm Max Palmer, that's Chan Wei Han, and we will see you all in the next one. Ta-ra!
Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Center. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars to simulators to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.